Hello everyone, this is Tanya with Tinkerin' and Ink with Tanya, and I'm here to show you a card I made in a collaboration with Kindred Stamps and Thermo-Web. I am using the Stars stencil from Kindred Stamps with a glimmer gel from Thermo-Web called Metallix White Pearl. I'm doing an uneven application with a palette knife over this star stencil, and I'm going to add another gel over the top of this to create a multi-tone effect. I'm just cleaning off the knife with my rag here because I was too lazy to take it to the sink. And this is the Gina Glimmer or Glitz Glimmer gel in Turquoise C. And I'm going to apply that unevenly over the stencil also. So these stars have a mixture of glittery turquoise and metallic white shine. And this texture doesn't have to be even. I'm going for a very random look, and I'm taking the extra that I've scraped off the stencil and putting it on a piece of cardstock so I can use it later for some embellishments. And then I'm going to take and clean my stencil and my palette knife right away. I'm going to take this larger monster from the Yora Scream stamp set from Kindred Stamps and color it with some Copic markers. I'm using R20, R22, and R24 to create a corally pink-red color for this fella. I'm starting with the lightest marker and coloring all over the body with that, and then I'm doing some flicking, blending with the medium tone, and I'm gonna start out doing the head and one of the arms until I realize that these are a little tricky to blend in the lightest to darkest order, because the lightest color has a lot of the colorless blender in it, and it makes it a bit grainy when you go over the whole blended coloring with the R20 at the end. So here I am with the R24, adding my shadowing or shading on the edges there, where it would potentially be the darkest. Not the greatest when it comes to lights and darks and shadowing. I'm coming in with the medium tone. So I had a lot of fun with this card. I didn't have a real plan when I made it. And this is going to end up being a double slider card, as you may have noticed from the preview photo. Let's get back to the coloring for a moment. I'm working in smaller areas now because it seems to not blend as well if it's left to dry completely between the colors. So I'm going back and forth between lightest, mid-tone, and darkest to get my shading done. So I had thought I was going to use some turquoise for the spots, but I'm going to use some darker colors here. I grabbed 3 of the darker reds and ended up only using 2 of them. I'm using the R39 and the RV69 to color the spots. Just again, back and forth between the lightest and darkest. I was a pretty messy colorer on this one, and because I was so heavy-handed with the Copics, I'm going to have to do a cleanup job here towards the end. We're switching to the belly and the toenails and the horns, and we're going to do from darkest to lightest. We're doing W2, W1, and W0. Just going back and forth over those to get the shading that I would like. So the double slider, I had done a template of my own creation, well, from looking at the double slider from Lawn Fawn, and because I wanted to make a double slider card right away, and I didn't want to wait for the dies to come, and I was still deciding if I really would use it enough to purchase the dies, which do make things go faster. Here I am cleaning up the image with a Signo white gel pen, just going over those areas that bled past the black line. I go through and clean that up all the way around, and I do end up also going in with a fine line marker that I'd gotten as a bonus in one of the boxes from Kindred Stamps. And I'm also adding some Sakura Jelly Roll Glaze pens in black, white, and clear to add some shimmer or some detail to this image over his eyes. I used the white on his teeth because those honestly pretty much got lost in the image. Okay, here you can see the shine on the horns. And I'm going to let the black dry for the eye, and here I'm going in. I am ultimately outlined almost everything again with that black marker, and here you can see how that sharpened the whole image up. Added the little highlights to the eyes, and I'm going to fussy cut this out. So the double slider card template is something you can find on a previous blog post and a previous video. I'll link those both in the description below. I'm still mastering this whole editing business, and I need to take it a piece at a time. Believe me, not doing these in one take without voiceover, it has taken some effort. Here I'm showing you the dried results, the lovely shimmer and shine of those stars and the texture. And I used here I'm using the actual Lawn Fawn dies. And I used some packaging, some stamp packaging to create the slider mechanism on that piece. And here I'm figuring out how to keep that, you know how they have the fold over sticky tab. I'm using that as part of, so I don't have to use a piece of adhesive for that. I figured out you had to flip it over with that end, and then I'm trimming off the excess. Then you get the seam to one end and add adhesive, double-sided adhesive on each side to adhere the slider panels to. I'm going to glue together the pocket, or actually I'm just applying all of the adhesive, so you want it on both sides of this part of the mechanism on those skinny little tabs, as far to the edge as you can, because you don't want it to interfere with the slider. And then you use the little flaps on the pocket dies that I'd cut. And I'm going to take some peacock feathers and distress ink, and ink that not real heavy, not real light, all over both of these little panels. I love that they're rounded edges and have stitching all around them. I love stitching. Then I'm going to take purple tape. This is the first time I've used the purple tape. Came in my Thermo-Web shipment. And I'm going to go back over with the peacock feathers to create darker stars over that. And that peels off just slick. It doesn't take any of my, it doesn't peel the paper apart at all. I love how those stars turned out. That was just perfect. They really do match the turquoise sea glimmer gel very well, Glitz Glimmer gel. So here I'm going to attach the slider panels, and you line up the edge that's going to pull out. You line that up with the edges of those tabs there on the mechanism, and you flip that over. You got to make sure that both of your panels are going to show. I did not have a real plan yet for where my sentiments were going to be, so I didn't have to worry about that part, if they were upside down or not. Here's the panel formation. I'm removing all the backing on the adhesives, making sure my slider panels aren't going to overlap on that adhesive, sealing that all in. And I'm going to give it a good crease here because my creasing was a little off, so I had to make sure that that was well creased so it slid well. And then I discovered that I had cut the little thumb tab there in too deep, and you could actually see the mechanism. We'll fix that later. There's a couple pull tabs that were die cut from that die cut set. I'm going to adhere those. They're scored too as part of the die cut. I want those to slide into those little thumb tabs, or circle tabs. And I figure out here that it's easier to adhere the front and then fold it over to get your placement correct. Making sure that the slider mechanism works. You want everything stuck down nice. And now I'm trying to figure out how I want the little monster. Eventually I get that all figured out. And I decide to find a distress color that matches the monster, and it turns out that candied apple is the one. If you're using Stampin' Up! Colors, you could use Poppy Parade. I think that would be the best color. And Bermuda Bay for the turquoises. I'm using some VersaFine Onyx Black here. I'm not going to emboss this, but it does stamp pretty much perfect every single time for a sentiment. I love that about this ink. We've got Happy Birthday. And we're going to stamp from your favorite monster. Which I will end up having to redo because the monster is a little too big. The double slider die set comes with a couple of banners, and we're going to use those. And adhere them with the Ultra Bond glue. I love this. It's super quick, dries clear, nice strong bond. Hadn't used it before today. A lot of firsts here. Now, yep, here's where we discover that it's covering the sentiment. Make sure that's well adhered so it doesn't catch on the mechanisms at all. I'm trying to decide how to do that. Then I found some stars. This is the little inker stitch stars die I cut out of some vellum, and now I'm using some coaster blanks, which I got pretty cheap. I got a box of 1,000 4-inch square coaster blanks for about, I think it was less than $40 a couple years ago, and I'm about a quarter of the way through that. I use it all the time. That Ultra Bond is adhering everything perfectly. Sometimes you have some trouble over stenciled paste, those kinds of things. This stuck super easy. I'm going to take some vellum, and now I am going to clear emboss this and trim it down nice and small to go over that sentiment that we're covering with our monster. And again, using the Ultra Bond glue, just smeared it evenly across the back so you won't see the adhesive. Lined it up over the sentiment I'd already stamped, and voila, perfect. Slides in and out nice. And I discovered one of my tabs was sticking out, so I used a little of that Ultra Bond glue, which that glue was all over my fingers until after I showered. Making sure my sliders work really well again. Now to cover that piece of mechanism that's sticking out from that die cut, oops, I'm using a little more of the coaster board, gluing that down with the Ultra Bond glue, and that piece that I had smeared my extra gel, mixed gel, I used another little inker star to cut that out. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you share this, like it, follow and subscribe to my video channel so you can see more of my videos. Go over to my blog to see the details, and don't miss the other video with the double slider card template. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.